Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at some Toshiba 300 series laptops from the mid to late 90s, specifically two 335 and one 320 series. These laptops are, in my opinion, some of the greatest and fastest Pentium 1 laptops ever made, come fully equipped with an internal hard drive, CD-ROM, floppy drive, and originally shipping with Windows 95 and later offered with Windows 98 upgrades. They feature a Yamaha OPL3 based sound system that's also Sound Blaster Pro compatible, offering fantastic DOS and Windows sound support. It has a Chips and Technology 65,000 series video controller and built-in LCD panel featuring an 800 by 600 resolution up to 24-bit or around 16 million colors. Let's take a quick look at the exterior and get an idea for what all of this laptop offered. So if we take a quick look here on this side, we have what is a set of two PCM CAA Type 2 card bus compatible expansion slots. Of course, our floppy drive and our CD-ROM. Around back, we have a full complement of I/O ports, including VGA, parallel, serial, infrared, PS2 keyboard and mouse, power input, and a USB 1.1 compatible port. It's pretty awesome, and a built-in fan, which is pretty quiet and actually rarely comes on unless the laptop's been under heavy load for quite some time. Around this side, we have the power switch, which actually has a little slide on it to keep you from turning on the laptop or turning it off, not really sure. Reset button that is recessed, and of course, headphone output, microphone input, and line in input. Also pretty handy is a built-in volume control. And up front, we have the status LEDs and the door to release the battery. In addition to the various models of this laptop, including 320, 325, 330, 335, there are two main variants of this laptop. There's a CDS and a CDT, the CDS having a dual scan passive matrix LCD screen, where the much nicer CDT series has an active matrix display, which looks really, really great, even to this day. Each of these have some minor issues relating to the display, cosmetics, and a few little quirks. There are some broken plastics. And the goal of this video would be to end up with two fully working, fully tricked out machines, and possibly one of these will be left over as some spare parts. They do all turn on and work to some degree, but I don't need three of them. It would really be great if just two of them worked perfectly. And of course, subscribe down below if you don't want to miss out on future videos with these laptops. I have a really cool project coming up in the next week or so, and really wanted one of these to be fully working and ready to go for that project. So yeah, I actually had one of these laptops as a kid and into my early teenage years, and it was absolutely fantastic. Very, very durable. I used to throw it into my backpack. I used to chuck it around, and even to this day, the plastics are very durable, very much in contrast with the Toshiba Libretto series, which all seem to be crumbling to dust. The plastics on these have held up really great over the years. So maybe let me know down in the comments if you had one of these, if you have some experiences with the early Toshiba Satellite 300 series laptops, or maybe you have another Pentium 1 laptop that you really loved and maybe I don't know about. Anyway, let's go ahead and start looking at these individually, get them labeled, and kind of identify what their quirks are and where we might be going as far as mixing and matching parts. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start looking at these things. This is the first one here, and a couple of things become apparent right away is that it almost looks like there's a protective film over this satellite logo here, and I'm sure that's what the intention is, but it is not the kind that you're supposed to remove. Do not remove it, because this will only look worse. So yeah, we'll try and clean up this logo a bit if we end up using this display. The other thing is that there is some blemish here on the front. I'm not sure how well that comes through on the camera, but it almost looks like it is embedded into the plastic. Otherwise, this one is also missing the card door here for the two PCMCA slots. There's a bit of a dent here under the CD-ROM, and you can see a little bit of discoloring between the floppy drive and the CD-ROM plastics and the actual chassis of the laptop. There's a little bit of separation here in the screen, not really a huge deal. Around back, it's looking pretty good, and around the other side, it is also looking pretty good as well. Let's go ahead and get this one open and take a closer look. This is the 335 CDT model, which means this has a 266 megahertz Pentium 1, which is actually the fastest, as far as I'm aware, Pentium 1 ever made. It's even faster than the desktop variants, which normally topped out around 233. Of course, it's the MMX version. And then here you can see a bit more of that discoloration here on the palm rest. My guess is that's just from whoever used this for many years. Maybe they had some oils on their hand, but yeah, I've tried some alcohol and various different cleaning products, and this does not seem to be coming off, so I'm guessing it's kind of embedded into the plastic, or it's reacted with the plastics a bit. It's missing the original track point nub, which is not a huge deal. You can still find replacements for these online. These are replacements for an IBM. I guess that's why they're red. Originally, the Toshiba would have come with a gray or a green track point nub. Thankfully, one of these IBM replacements fits on the keyboard perfectly and has a really great feel to it. I know there's people who are not a fan of the track point mouses. I really do like them. It gives you a very nice kind of separation or movement here from typing to mousing. So it's actually pretty neat. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this one powered. So I'm going to take the original power supply here. It's a 15 volt, 3 amp power supply. And get that plugged in. And of course plugged into the back of the laptop. The barrel jack is quite large, but it is one of the common ones you can find in those multi-tip kits. So if you don't have the original power supply, not a big deal. Go out and get you one of those and you should be able to get the laptop powered on without issue. I have had trouble powering these from a USB-C power delivery power brick. I think the 15 volts at 3 amps is a bit too much, and sometimes that can overload the laptop and you'll get a weird display. Here you can see the power input is lit up green and the battery light has come on amber, letting us know that the battery is charging. If this light is blinking or pulsing or anything other than either green or amber, then that means there's some sort of an issue charging the battery. But like I said, I believe the batteries are working in all 3 of these machines, which is pretty surprising after all these years. Of course, we do have the nice active matrix display here in the CDT version versus the passive matrix one. And as we get to the one of these does have the passive matrix display, I think you'll quite easily see the difference. Powering on the laptop, you can see it comes up with the Toshiba logo, and I guess it's booting right into Windows 98, but I'm going to stop that for now. What I want to do is get into the BIOS. I'm going to mash the escape key, and normally on a Toshiba that'll give you the check system, press F1 key to enter the BIOS. Here we see this one actually has 96 megabytes of RAM, which is a pretty big compliment. The machine has 32 megabytes baked onto the motherboard and another 64 megabyte module installed. Even after going through all of my spare modules, I haven't been able to find any more that are compatible with these machines. I think 2 of these have the 64 megabyte upgrade module, which is great. And yeah, you can also see that there is the BIOS versions at 6.10 here. I believe the BIOS goes up to 8.0, so hopefully we can get that upgraded if we do decide to use this board. Which would of course be great because this is one of the 266 megahertz models. And yeah, I believe that's about it. I mean, this machine is turning on and working. I think I've been using this one a little bit to just experiment with the Windows 98 install, get prepared for that future project that I really want to do with one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one labeled up. I'm going to put a few labels on here, because we may end up mixing and matching some parts. So I'm going to get just a few stickers of painter's tape here. I'm going to label this as number 1, just so we don't lose track and it's a little bit easier for me to remember kind of where we net out on this whole project. So I'm going to put a 1 here as well. So yeah, that is the first one of these, and it's not so bad. I mean, besides for a few missing parts, this card door over here and a couple of dings on the plastic and some blemishes, otherwise the display seems to be working really nicely. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for number one for now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the others. Okay, so here is the second one of these, and we'll take a quick look at this. This one is a 335 CDS, so this one has the dual scan passive matrix display. Looks like I already replaced the track point nub here. The mouse has a few blemishes on the buttons, but otherwise the plastics are in pretty good shape. Let's take a look at the exterior. So yeah, this one does have the card door, a little bit less discoloration between the CD-ROM. This one's a little bit loose, isn't it? Huh. And yeah, this looks pretty good from this side. You can see this one has a wheel here on the side of the display. It's pretty much a dead giveaway for any laptop that is using a passive matrix display, is that you'll find a contrast knob. There's no contrast control for an active matrix display. Sometimes this could be a brightness, but particularly for these, if there's a wheel over here on the side of the screen, then you know for sure that's one of the passive matrix displays. Looking around back, it's pretty much the same as the other ones. Full complement of ports, no real damage here. And a bit of shmoo right here under the power button, but I think that could be wiped off and do a deep clean of the laptop. And around front, it's looking pretty clean as well. Could obviously use with a full wipe down. So let's go ahead and get this one powered on and see what this one is all about. Go ahead and plug in the power. And yeah, the power came on and the battery charge light also came on. So let's go ahead and get this one powered on and see what it does. I'll go ahead and do the same and just mash the escape key here. Okay. So this one may not have a hard drive, or it may have a problem with the hard drive. Normally if it hangs on this Toshiba screen for a bit, it's kind of an indication that there's some sort of an issue. I guess right away you can definitely see the line here in the middle of the display, and this is not a problem with the display now. This is a problem with this display from day one. I can absolutely attest to that. The CDS version of this laptop always had this small line in the middle. That's because it's a dual scan display. I don't know the full details behind it, but it almost seems like there's two separate controllers on this screen, and one is for the top half, one is for the bottom half. Here we can see the HDC error, so this one must not have a hard drive installed, but we can go ahead and press the F1 key. This one does have BIOS 8.0 and 32 megabytes of RAM, which is of course built onto the board. This one also has the 266 megahertz Pentium 1 MMX. All right, so yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and label up this one as number 2. Go ahead and get a few stickers on here, and I'm just putting these on a few different parts because once I get the screens off and once I get the bottoms of these removed, it's gonna be quite difficult to remember where each of them came from. Be great if I had a permanent marker, but I don't at the moment. Go ahead and get a number 2 on here as well. Just quick and dirty. You can see there are a few scuffs and blemishes on the plastic, but I imagine most of these will wipe right off with a good proper cleaning, maybe a little bit of magic eraser. But there is a bit of a texture on the plastic, so if you scrub too hard with something abrasive, it will start to leave a shine on the plastic. You can also see here on the Satellite logo where someone, maybe me, tried to peel this up a little bit from the edge, but it just leaves behind a residue and ultimately starts to peel off the lettering. So again, recommend leaving this sticker alone as much as you possibly can. And yeah, I think that's a good tour of this one. So let's go ahead and get the next one out. Moving on to the third machine, you can clearly see there's a good bit more scuffing here on the top, but the Satellite logo is looking really great on this model. Around the sides, it's also, yeah, this might be the best looking one here. You can see the plastics are very, very close. CD-ROM drive's not loose. Floppy drive looks good. Of course, I've got our card door here on this side. Around back, everything's looking pretty great as well. Also on this side. So cosmetically, this is one of the better cases. This is definitely a candidate for one of the fully working machines. And get this one open. Oh, and you can definitely hear, oh, yeah, so definitely the screen hinges are pretty tight in this one. A little bit of creaking there, so maybe just a little shot of oil and working it back and forth a few times would get us a little bit better of a result. The keyboard and the mouse on this one, on the other hand, are a little bit gummy. These mouse buttons here are quite worse for the wear. And this one's also missing the track point nub. I'm not going to put that on just yet because there's a good bit of gunk here around that mouse. I don't know what you call that actually. The thing that the track point mouse snub goes on, I guess the actual track point mouse. This one also is a 320 CDT, so I believe that means this one has a 233 megahertz Pentium MMX. Whether you're really going to see that much of a difference between the 233 or the 266, it's really going to be negligible at that point. So maybe we use some of the plastics from this one, the screen from this one, and replace it with one of the motherboards in the 335 CDS models. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and get this one labeled up, and in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get it powered on. Just see if this thing has anything going on. Yeah, that screen is just super tight. So I'm gonna go ahead and power it on, mash the escape key. Oh, and this one actually has a mechanical hard drive in there. I can definitely hear it power up. This one I get an error for the RTC battery and the CMOS battery. I believe there are actually two internal rechargeable batteries, very small ones. One for the RTC and one for the BIOS. I'm not really sure. It's kind of strange that there's two. If anybody knows more about that, let me know. Of course, you can see the display here is also looking very good. It's a little bit dim in the camera, but in real life, this is a very nice and vibrant display. None of that dual scan nonsense. It's a nice active matrix display. So we'll go ahead and get this one labeled up as number 3. We'll get into the BIOS and see if we see anything reported there. Get a few pieces of this tape on there. Label this one up as 3. Get one on the top as well. And yeah, that beep is for when you close the display. Quite honestly, I don't know why it does that, but there is an option in the BIOS for that. However, you know, with a CMOS battery or BIOS battery that's not working properly anymore, you're going to tend to lose your settings, but not such a big deal. And kind of with the librettos is anytime I open those up, I tend to remove those batteries because they just will, they'll sit there and corrode. And really the biggest purpose is for the real-time clock, which is not such a big deal, you know. Don't really need to have time-stamp sensitive files on these machines anymore, and whether or not you need to come in here every so often and set up a couple of options to get the machine ready to go, also not a huge deal. Pretty much everything is set the way you would want it to be right out of the gate. This one curiously has BIOS 6.2 on it. So again, I think we can do a BIOS upgrade on this machine and also get that up to the latest version. This one also has only 32 megabytes of RAM, so we'll take a look at that. And yeah, I think that's about it for this machine. So now that we have a stock of the machines, I think it's time to start tearing them apart. And yeah, we'll get right into it. Kind of interested to see if this one's battery is working, and hey, look at that. Oh, well, it just shut off, but any battery life at all means the battery does still have some life in it, so that's pretty fantastic. I guess that's a good time to go ahead and close this one up. Take a look at the bottom. And this is one where I'm not really sure what happened, but the previous owner or a previous owner of this machine, I guess, couldn't get this screw for the hard drive out and tried prying on it with some sort of a tool. So this is all marred up and the screw is circular, to say the least. No Phillips head bit or flathead bit or anything is going to fit in there. So I'm not really sure how we're going to get the drive out of this machine. May end up having to drill that out or Dremel it out. Not too excited about that, but probably means that at least the hard drive door on this one is going to be a little bit mangled beyond repair, or at least a little bit cosmetically damaged. To get the battery out of these machines is actually really easy. You can do it from the front or the top. and the battery just comes out like so. And one of the nice things about these Toshibas is if for some reason you didn't want to use the battery, you can actually take the battery out and put the tray right back into the machine, and it looks completely normal from the outside. This is unlike a lot of laptops where the battery is integrated into the actual tray or the receptacle that holds the battery. So that is definitely a bonus for this one. This is one where the capture is broken. I think there's a tab that's been broken off here. So this machine has been probably handled a little bit roughly. And that just kind of lends to where, even though these look very complete and like functional laptops, is that ultimately if I can end up with two of these that have, you know, all of the plastics working, obviously this one you'd want to replace the hard drive door with one from another one, the one with the missing card slot doors, you know, use that from here. So yeah, I think ending up with two working machines and just having some spare parts left over is probably the best way to go. And yeah, I think we'll go ahead and start getting one of these machines apart. I suppose, yeah, this one is number 3, so go ahead and get the screwdriver out, and I don't know, I guess no time like the present, but we got to do something about getting this hard drive door out, so let's get to it. And with the battery removed, I think a good place to start is with this hard drive door. So we'll go ahead and try and get that off. I'm going to take this caddy out. And I have a drill and an old drill bit, and I guess just drill down until the screw breaks off or something. So yeah, here we go. Okay. Oh, wow. All right. Whew. All right, I had to reef on that pretty hard and bent the tray here a little bit, but that should all bend back into place, and I don't think we'll be keeping the original mechanical hard drive anyway, although it's probably fine. So, yeah, that screw is, so we can get a better look at that. Yeah, that thing is just, I mangled it, someone else mangled it. Many years of mangling, but the drive is finally out, and now we can go ahead and continue with the teardown, which should actually, from this point, be pretty easy. Get some of these plastics out of here, and I don't know, I guess we'll take a look at what's going on underneath this once we get the chassis off a little bit, but yeah, as you can see, we definitely had to get that drive out because here's one of the screws that holds the bottom on. So we'll go ahead and start getting these screws out. Thankfully for the Toshibas, there's really only two kinds of screws. There's the long ones and the short ones, so not really a big deal to remember where they go. Long ones pretty much go where the screw depth is really long, and the short ones go where the screw depth is pretty short. Go ahead and get some of this stuff out of the way. Hold on to our hard drive. Mangled hard drive door, our screw that is most certainly never going back in. Go ahead and take our screwdriver and start popping out all these screws. Okay, I believe, yep, that is all of the screws from the bottom. So next, we'll flip it over. Go ahead and get our display open. And take a look at actually one of my favorite things about these laptops is the keyboard is actually not screwed in at all and is instead held in with this small retention bar above the screen or above the keyboard, very similar to the librettos. Over the years, I've seen these start to crack. When I was younger, this thing would just come right off without any issue. But these days, I like to slightly lift up and then start to pry from the edge here. And that makes it come up a lot easier. Of course, originally designed to just, kind of pull that thing right out of there. And then this bar holds the keyboard down. And there's not actually any screws on the top of the keyboard. I think the libretto does have a screw up here. But either way, go ahead and get the keyboard disconnected here with a tiny ribbon cable. And we can see here we have the expansion RAM slot and a few covers for the connectors that run up to the display into the top half here. A couple of screws to remove from this bit. We'll go ahead and get those screws out. This one was rather loose. I can already feel that this is ready to come off, so now the top half should just lift right off of the laptop with all of the connectors free. There is this kind of plastic shield in between the top half and the bottom half. And yeah, oh man, and yeah, we can see some of that corrosion from those batteries, so this is going to turn into a little bit more of a repair than I was expecting. I don't know if that's gotten into the speaker. That seems fine. So yeah, maybe we can just clean that off a little bit and it will be all good. Set this display aside because it is a good working display. And we can get a better look at the internals. So we'll go ahead and get this plastic sheet off, and it's just kind of held captive on a couple of edges and comes right out. I don't know that this serves any particular functional purpose. It's really just to kind of provide these flaps to the various connectors and whatnot, but we'll probably reuse that. There's no reason to get rid of it. And yeah, here we can see there's a good bit more damage from these internal batteries. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get those out and see if we can clean that up a bit. Ultimately, probably won't replace the internal batteries here. Again, it's not really a huge deal if the clock keeps perfect time and date. But yeah, I think that's a good start to getting this unit apart. I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other two. Report back if there's anything unusual or alarming like this corrosion here, and take it from there. Okay, so I actually got the second one apart here, or at least I took out all the screws, and a couple of interesting things that I didn't really notice before is, well, this one was only detecting 32 megs of RAM, and the reason for that is RAM wasn't even in the slot the right way, so I'm not sure if that means that this stick is dead or doesn't work or something wrong with the laptop, but more importantly, I didn't really realize that the connector for the LCD is completely different. It actually seems to have a lot more connections to the screen than the CDT version, so this is the CDS with the passive matrix display. And I guess part of my original plan was to just swap the entire top half from one of the CDTs onto this 335 unit here, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be possible given that this is an entirely different connector. I guess we'll see as we can get these more apart and we can compare the layout of the board. But yeah, that's just something kind of interesting that I saw here. So I'm going to continue tearing these down, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So the boards are remarkably similar. Obviously, you kind of have all of the major components in the same locations. These are both 335 units, so this is kind of the best comparison. But yeah, the display connector here is very different. It's kind of surprising that they would have made two different motherboards for this. But I guess that's what they did, and that's the yeah, it's very interesting. The other thing to note is that this one appears to have a fan that has a metal shroud on it, whereas the other one here, the CDT, has a plastic fan, although the fan, I imagine, has the same characteristics. Another thing to note here on this one is I'm not sure if this is corrosion or leftover flux, but it is just very dirty in this area, and I believe under here are capacitors, so I do kind of wonder if those have started to leak over time. But yeah, let's go ahead and start getting this a little bit further apart. We'll get these batteries out of here and see what configuration we end up with for these laptops. Okay, with all three of these apart and open here, we can get a little bit better of a look at what we want to do. And first things first, I think I'm going to go ahead and just set a little bit lower of a goal to get one of these fully put back together and reassembled. There's a good bit of cleaning that needs to be done on each of these. They each have a little bit of a corrosion or a little bit of shmoo on the board, and I just want to get all of the drives out, the boards out, and get one of these back together. The display interface here was not something I was anticipating going into this, so we'll just course correct a little bit. Here you can get a better look at the one where the battery has just kind of let go completely. So although I would have preferred to end up with two working CDT ones, I think I'll go ahead and focus on the better looking 335 CDT here, and we'll leave the other CDS and this CDT probably for a future video. First things first, we'll go ahead and get some of these boards removed. Now, I don't actually know that we have to take all of them off, but if I do want to clean under this unit, it'll be a lot easier with these removed. So we'll go ahead and get this front panel loosened up here. We go. Board is removed. And yeah, look at that. That is quite the heat sink there on that CPU. So you can get a better idea for its ability to passively cool itself. And of course, there's this fan at the back that helps with that. There are a number of capacitors here, probably for power regulation. Not sure what this yellow is on them, if that's some sort of a corrosion or from manufacturing, but we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. Of course, here you can see the Chips and Technologies display controller. Here we have this platform controller, North Bridge, South Bridge, whatever you want to call it. But that is probably handling most of the I/O and interconnect to the peripherals on this board. Go ahead and get this put to the side and take a look at this chassis. So it is remarkably clean under here, of course, but yeah, this corrosion, you can see that that is eaten into whatever coating that is on here, and you know, quite dirty on the fingers, so definitely wash your hands or wear some gloves when working on one of these. Looks like the CD-ROM is just held in by two screws here on this side, so we'll go ahead and get those out. guess I thought this would just lift right up. It doesn't seem like there's any other screws that hold it down. I don't know if it's just... Oh, okay. And it slides out. Guess that's something. All right, and then there we have our CD-ROM drive, which is quite heavy. Wow, this is a considerable amount of weight of this unit. It's I'll have to get a scale or something to weigh it, and I'm wondering if the other ones weigh the same amount, but wow, that is really heavy. And there you have it. There is the chassis. Pretty much everything has been removed. I could, of course, remove the rest of these brackets, but I don't think that will interfere with our ability to clean it. What I wanted to look at over here is how easy it would be to swap the door assembly, and it almost looks like that is just held in with a screw here, and that might all be one assembly. The door is not actually connected to the chassis or this case here. It's actually connected to this internal bracket. So it looks like that can be replaced and swapped between the units, so that'll be pretty cool. And yeah, I think let's take a minute to figure out where we want to go next. All right, so with all 3 units disassembled, I did pull out all of the old internal BIOS RTC batteries. Again, not really sure why there's 2. They're all in pretty bad shape, so what I'll probably do is salvage the ones where the connectors aren't totally gunked up with corrosion. I'll snip those off, save them. I'll just document what these batteries are in case anyone's wondering. So this one is Varda. Great. Yeah, so those are the... Not sure that they were known at the time, but they have definitely become now known as the battery bombers, especially those who look at repairing vintage motherboards. If you see a Varda on there, you definitely want to get that off as soon as possible. So this one is a, let's see if we can get the camera to focus on that without so much glare. There we go. So this is a Varda 7.2 volt, 30 milliamp hour battery. It looks like it has 6 cells all wired up here in series. The other ones are, let's go ahead and get the sticker off of there. So not much help in that regard, but you can clearly see that this one only has 2 cells, but the cells also seem much shorter than the other pack. So something to look out there for. The smaller battery has a 3-pin connector with the middle pin not connected, whereas the larger battery has a 2-pin connector. Both the same type of connector here, or at least same style of connector. This one's 3-pin, this one is 2-pin. So let's go ahead and get this board the rest of the way out of there. I did go ahead and remove the drives and everything else from this chassis. What I wanted to do, this is a chassis that's in pretty decent shape and no idea where that screw came from, so we'll figure that out later. But what I wanted to do was get the battery, the card slot door here off, and at first I was thinking that it had to do with this screw down here, but that appears to only hold in the Kensington lock on the side. So what I ended up figuring out is that these are just sort of clipped into place, and to remove them, I'm going to go ahead and pop the clips out from the top, like so, and then there's 2 smaller clips here underneath, and I'll just lift up slightly on either side, and boom. So there we go, there is our broken card slot door out of the way, and yeah, you can see the kind of track that the card door actually hinges on is broken off on this side, so we'll keep that for a spare. But it should just be as simple as putting this one in its place, and then this chassis will be in much better shape. Okay, that was really easy to get on there. And yeah, now you can, yeah, so card slot door replaced on this unit. What I think I'll do is clean this chassis up a bit, and we'll reassemble this one as one of the fully working units. And again, I'll probably leave the other 2 for a future video. Seems like they probably need a little bit more work, and there is something interesting that I want to try with them. But we'll go ahead and get this one cleaned up a little bit, let it dry out for a bit, come back and start reassembling. Okay, so some time has passed and I was looking around on these motherboards thinking, what can I do with this video to make it a little bit more interesting than just disassembling 3 laptops and maybe putting 2 of them back together? So I was taking a look at the boards to see what the differences were between them, and other than the display connector, not a whole lot. One thing I was noticing on the bottom of the board, however, is some empty pads. And so if you peel this black plastic away, this protective film, like so, well, there's our onboard RAM, our onboard 32 megabytes, and right next to it looks like a full set of pads for more memory. So I was thinking, what if I stole the RAM off of one of these boards and put them onto the one board that I definitely want to use and make one ultra upgraded Toshiba Satellite 335. And so now I think we're going to go ahead and take this under the zoomed in view, get some hot air on there and see if we can't get these chips off of this board here and transplanted onto one of the other boards. So let's get right to it. Okay, let's get some flux on the board here just to help with the flowing of the solder a bit. And that's it. All of the RAM chips removed, and interesting to note is that the orientation, you can see the little notch there lines up with the notch here in the corner of the chip. So that'll definitely help us with placing these on the new board. All right, and to get the chips onto this board that we just took off of our donor board, we're going to go ahead and apply some flux, and I'm not really going to bother to re-clean these pads and reapply solder. It looks like there's a perfect amount on every one of these pads. So that should be really good to go. And yeah, with a little bit of flux just to help hold everything in place, I believe this will go very, very easily. So I'll probably start with this chip that's the furthest away. Just because that one's going to be a little more difficult for me to get to once the other chips are in place. So just a little bit of flux, get our chip all aligned, and hopefully just a dash of hot air and we'll be good to go. Repeat that 4 times and we'll have all of the chips on the board. Okay, so I'm just going to get this roughly aligned in the right place. Kind of move it around a bit just until the pins are fairly lined up, and then hopefully it'll kind of wick itself into place. And just like that, chips removed from the board over here, transplanted onto this board here. Hopefully this actually works. I'm actually really interested to see if the board with no RAM will still work if we install one of the RAM modules. I know a lot of computers don't like not having RAM in the first slot, and I don't know if the motherboard considers this the first slot. I'm not sure how the BIOS is configured to initialize the onboard memory versus the expansion memory, but that'll be something very interesting. Either way, one thing I was thinking is that if I can find more modules, the pinout of the chips on these two modules seems to match the exact configuration of the chips that are on this original board. So my thought is maybe if I can pick up a couple of these extra RAM modules that I could actually repopulate not only the original memory here, but also an additional upgrade for this board as well. Definitely don't want to just destroy the board, but it's pretty easy to use hot air to get these on and off, and there's not a whole lot going on the other side of the board that you would end up damaging. It's kind of mostly just this RAM slot here. There's not a whole lot of surface mount components that are directly below those chips. So actually it seems like these came off without any damage to this board whatsoever. And it seems like they're perfectly soldered now to this one. So the next thing is, let's go ahead and fire these up and see if they actually work. And I think I'm going to go ahead and break out the capture setup for that so we don't have to get the laptop fully reassembled. So let's go ahead and get that going. So for testing, we're going to go ahead and start with this board where I've populated all of the RAM. What we're expecting to see is that the BIOS initializes with 64 megabytes of RAM. Hopefully it posts it all, and hopefully it doesn't only post with the 32 megabytes. I looked over this board pretty extensively and couldn't find anything that appears to be a configuration for the onboard memory. But we'll go ahead and get it flipped over and go ahead and get our power and VGA hooked up. So we'll go ahead and hook this up. Definitely nice to have onboard VGA here on this board so we don't have to hook up the original display. So we'll get power connected, and we'll get one of these front panel connectors. Come on, VGA. There we go. So we'll get one of the front panel boards hooked back up because otherwise there's no onboard power lights. I think these LEDs up here are for the keyboard, as far as caps lock, num lock, that sort of thing. But interestingly, there's no power. Oh no, this board is already on. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was kind of freaked out as I saw this light already on, but that is the light letting us know that the machine is receiving power. So I think next, let's get a keyboard connected. And I could break out a PS2 keyboard, but I'll just go ahead and hook up the original keyboard here to this onboard connector, like so. All right, well, I think we're all ready. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the capture setup. Okay, and let's go ahead and power it on. Okay, oh, there, oh, it's posted. Okay, check system, and that's because we don't have the BIOS battery or the RTC battery connected. I went ahead and just disposed of those cells that were all leaking and saved the terminals here in case I do want to wire in something. But unfortunately, they are rechargeable batteries, so it's not prudent to just hook up a CR2032 or similar. You'd want to hook up a diode or investigate the charge circuit there a little bit. But okay, so here's the moment of truth. Press F1. Oh, and there it is. Look at that. 65, 5036, whatever. 64 megabytes of onboard RAM. Amazing. Okay. So the next thing I want to check is what happens if we do actually install one of these expansion modules. So let's go ahead and install one of these. We'll use this small one here. Go ahead and get that installed. And now, I guess what I would be expecting to see is that there's 128 megs of RAM, and hopefully it's not, you know, connected to the same bank that this memory module would have been connected to. So let's go ahead and fire this up. Oh, okay. Hey, look at that. 128 megs of RAM. That is amazing. I can't believe that that actually worked. So, yeah, it's a testament to these older systems where they must just look for and probe all of the memory addresses to see what RAM is available instead of relying on configuration parameters that lock you into one size or one configuration of memory. So, wow, that is really, really cool. I guess the next thing to wonder though is what happens with this board where we've removed all of the RAM? Will this post? Probably won't post without any RAM installed, but let's find out. I'm kind of interested to see what the situation is here. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything disconnected from this one. Disconnect our VGA, and we will disconnect the keyboard. Take our RAM out. Awesome. So I'm going to set this board to the side. That is really, really cool. And yeah, again, this is the board where we've removed all of the RAM modules. So I'm just very interested to see if this can still work without any onboard memory at all. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our VGA connected and power. Go ahead and hook up another one of these front panel boards, status LED boards, not really sure what you want to call it here. Okay, so yeah, same thing is that, dang VGA cable. So yeah, we have the light letting us know that the system is receiving power. So let's go ahead and get our keyboard connected as well. All right, that looks good. And yeah, I think first I'm going to try posting it without any memory installed. I'm pretty interested to see. I seriously doubt that this thing can post without any onboard memory, but definitely worth a shot there. So let's go ahead and fire this up. Okay, power LED came on, and there's no video output. Okay, so let's not freak out immediately. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back off. Hopefully it will allow me to soft power off. Of course, I could just unplug the power cord. Looks like I'm going to have to unplug the power cord. Okay, so reseat the power cord. So yeah, only the power input light is on. Let's try throwing in one of these RAM modules and see if this still works. Pentium 1, even with 64 megs of RAM, is still incredibly useful. Oh, yeah, that slot's a little bit crusty there. Okay, so now let's see. I'm going to go ahead and fire this back up. Oh, wow. It works. Look at that, 64 megs of RAM. So you totally can remove the onboard memory from this computer, put in a RAM module, and it still will post. That is absolutely fantastic. I can't believe that that's the case. So I think what I'm going to do now is just kind of, well, clean up my desk from 3 laptops worth of parts and get one of the units reassembled. Specifically, I'll reassemble the unit where we have all of the RAM modules on the board, and hopefully we'll be able to get one of these fully put back together, cleaned up a little bit, and that'll leave me a fully working Toshiba Satellite 335 CDT, and that'll be great for the next project that I have coming up. So, catch you in a minute. And that's it. Laptop's all put back together. Got all the screws in, and I think I even put in all of the screws. As you can see, I still have some of the labels on here, and that's because I did end up mixing and matching some components. Originally, I wanted to separate one of the LCD assemblies from the bottom half, but to do that, you actually have to take apart the entire screen, so I just decided to clean this bottom half, or this palm rest up a little bit, and it seems to have cleaned up pretty nicely. The bottom is actually from number 2, so that's interesting. It's nice to know that even with the different display cables between the CDS and the CDT, that the chassis still do fit together. Obviously, this one is actually a 335 CDT with a nice active matrix display. I haven't put the keyboard bar in because I just wanted to double check that everything was actually functional before I powered it on. So as you can see, there's no RAM installed currently in the expansion RAM slot. But let's go ahead and get it powered on and just make sure that it is actually still functioning. So I'm going to turn it on and hold down the escape key. Should let us get into the BIOS. There we go. Check system, press F1. And there we go. 65 or 64 megabytes of RAM. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and get one of the expansion modules installed and just make sure that it is still seeing the full 128. So I'm going to power this one off. And we'll get our RAM installed just like so. There we go. Super easy. And go ahead and power it back on and just make sure, hit escape, and just make sure that we are still seeing, awesome, there it is, 128 megs. So I'm going to go ahead and get this keyboard retention bar back in place, and thankfully that's extremely easy. Bam, that's it. That's all there is to it. Laptop's fully put back together, and I think I can go ahead and start peeling off these stickers. That sure is satisfying to see one of these units go back together, everything fully functional, and even a healthy upgrade. The last thing I wanted to do though is, you can see it's here on BIOS version 6.1, and I believe I have the file here to update that to BIOS version 8. So I think I'm going to go ahead and boot into Windows because I believe this is one of those self-extractors that you have to write back to a floppy disk, let it extract, it'll create a disk image that it writes to a floppy disk. So we'll go ahead and do that and get Windows booted up here. All right, files successfully unzipped. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it overwrite this disk since I can just copy that file back to it if I really need to, but we'll go ahead and run that. It does say for Satellite 320C series, but I would imagine the BIOS is very similar, if not identical, for all of these machines, so hopefully that's not going to actually be a problem. But we'll go ahead and let the disk write out here and just make sure that we can actually boot off of that. All right, looks like that is it. Okay, yeah, all right, so it does say this BIOS is applicable to the following models, and they're all of our models of the Satellite 320 series, so the 320s, the 325s, 330s, and the 335s. So it looks like there's no difference in the BIOS between the ones that run the CDS display or the dual scan passive matrix display and the active matrix display. So that's kind of interesting. I still wonder if there's a way to modify the display connector to use one or the other. Otherwise, I think we can probably figure this out. So I'm going to close out of this and let's refresh this disk just to see what the contents are. Okay, so yeah, this looks pretty straightforward, I think. Let's go ahead and restart. All right, hopefully it boots off of this disk. Starting Windows 95, so I guess it has a Windows 95 version of DOS on there, probably DOS 7.1. Okay. Looks like it's reading the BIOS file here. Hopefully that picks up the right file. Okay, yeah, so it's going to take the 6.1 and replace it with the 8.0. Still interesting here that it says 320 CDS, but I'm guessing that's just because that is the line of this machine. It's not actually going to... Oh, I guess it already did it. Okay, ROM write successful, utility finished. So... I guess we should take the disk out. Didn't really say to, but... All right, well, let's turn it off. And hopefully it turns back on. Go ahead and hit the escape. Okay, boot logo. All right. Aha, there we go. ACPI BIOS version 8.0. Fantastic. Now, what I'm sort of expecting is that when Windows boots back up here is that it may detect new devices, or just the devices will have changed slightly. That's kind of typical for a BIOS update like that. So let's see if that is the case. All right, looks like Windows is starting up. Awesome, and we are fully booted into Windows, or at least almost fully booted into Windows. Battery's charging, awesome. Go ahead and run dxdiag just one more time to make sure everything is still being detected as we expect. Awesome, 128 megs of RAM, Pentium MMX 260, fantastic. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, that is extremely exciting. So yeah, I think that'll probably wrap it up for this particular video. Like I said, I just wanted to get at least one of these fully functional again because I have a really cool project, and the icons on my desktop are any indication. Maybe you'll be able to figure that out before I actually do that video. But either way, if you like this kind of thing, definitely appreciate you subscribing, and yeah, give me a like, give me a comment down below if you think there's something I should have done differently. Maybe you have some good ideas for the rest of those Toshiba laptops. Definitely will be putting those back together, definitely off camera. This is probably enough laptop taking apart and putting back together shenanigans for one video, but thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye!